And now we'll be moving on to some best practices of part and naming. We'll be looking at parts for rendering, and then some methods for overriding the delivered data set. So when we go in to be creating new parts, it's just good practice. Are you going to be calling it door or doors? You want to be making everything consistent. You'd want to be naming these parts because they do list alphabetically. You might want to be grouping them by, CMU, CMU 1 hour, etc. We don't want to have too many descriptors in the part name themselves. So you do want to have like CMU, CMU split face, but as I mentioned before, we don't really want to be putting the actual size of the CMU itself into the actual name of it. And this is something that's newer in our newer versions that it basically the data group system of a wall will then change the width of it. So you wouldn't want this to be labeled at 6 inches when if you're placing an 8-inch wall through the data group system, you just want it to be 8-inch CMU, and then the reporting off of the data group system will do all the volumes, and surface area of that size. So you don't want to really be putting sizes of part names. And then you want to differentiate between assemblies versus component parts. So component parts are like, we'll look out later, are pieces of a door. So there's going to be a part which is the frame, a part is the leaf, and you might want to name them similar to how we do in the delivered data set, that we say door, material, door as the family, and then the part is material, door, metal frame. And then if it's an assembly, you'd want to have it labeled differently as well. So we do have like wall components, and then we have wall assemblies. And there are some characters you want to avoid, commas, greater than, less than, backslash, and quotes. And you don't want to have spaces in the family and part names if you're using criteria sets. So those are just some tips on naming parts. And then we want to have, as we were looking at center lines, you could have different levels for drawing control, for life safety plan, mechanical, plumbing. You can be using ByLevel, but we don't want people necessarily creating additional levels to be using ByLevel. And people who are using ByLevel is more for going output to DWG. But you can be in your model using the colors of what objects are. So if you have CMU walls, 1 hour, 2 hours, they could have these in different colors so you can immediately see that what the ratings are, or you could be using display rules as well. And then we also, that unifiers will have clean drawings that will go through multiple parts, which we'll look at in a moment here. And so this is an example of parts are also used for the resymbolization of drawings with our drawing rules. So rules can be based on families and parts or criteria, but here it's actually pulling the families and parts and then resymbolizing it and having it go to a single line drawing.
And Mark, this is an example where the user actually created an additional family and part or an additional family so that they could apply a different rule to that particular family. So they differentiated between small ducks and large ducks, in other words, so that they could have different rules for each of them. So it's just another thing to consider when you're setting up your families and parts is how that might affect the rules that you want to create for drawing symbology.
And that small pipe and small, large and small was also for the labels as well, right?
Right,
so
correct.
As far as like space on your drawing, that you could differentiate between having that space for the automatic labels.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you want to see more such series, consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you, and see you next time.